I've never seen anything like the drum rudiment system in my 26 years of playing. That's why I find it a real blessing to do, because I find it a void in the material that is out there for teaching anywhere from beginner to advanced players. It's basically impossible to play the drums without using your rudiments. Whether it's a single stroke or a little double or a little roll, the rudiments are really the foundation of everything that we play on the drums. You can't get away from them. So the more that you understand them, just the better player that you'll be. It's really quite the marriage that way. I've been teaching about 15 years and having a wide variety of students from anywhere from, like, I had a 4-year-old one time, which was interesting. I couldn't have him behind the kit or anything like that. We just had some congas out and stuff like that, and it was more like a 15-minute quick lesson. I've taught senior citizens and beginners and all kinds of different students. It's been quite fun. No, I highly recommend this package to teachers because I'm going to use it. I find it extremely applicable and just not boring. It takes the rudiments to the next level from just being on the pad to making them much more exciting. And then you can really see how you progress as a musician. It's awesome. I find if there's a student that'll actually sit down and learn all the rudiments, the opportunities for gigs for them will open up because you'll be that much more diverse of a player. And then in turn, you'll be able to get a whole bunch of different gigs and then different paying gigs. The better the player, the more money you can make at a gig. I find it's extremely important for beginners to learn their rudiments. It'd be like saying, how important is it for me to eat or drink? Well, basically, I would die. And I think if beginners learn the rudiments first, they will have just a beautiful career of experimentation and just a lot less limits and so much more fun. If I would have had something like this 20 years ago, I would be that much better of a player. And it's really too bad, as I teach and try to look for other material that's out there, I don't find there's anything out there quite like this, the way it breaks it down and makes it applicable. Because it's one thing to know your inverted flam taps, but how does that really apply? So I find it quite unique that way. Even advanced and intermediates need to be learning their rudiments, and maybe they might have it to a certain level where they can be comfortable with the stickings, but the rudiments are quite endless. The different combinations that you can do, you can split it up between your limbs, you can take flams and do them juxtaposed. Like one thing I'm working on right now, I take the flam paradiddle and I move the flam throughout the paradiddle, then I'll add 2 flams and 3 flams and 4 flams, and you can just get creative with that, and then making different beats and grooves and then breaking it up with your legs. It's really quite endless what you can do. Well, I think it's very important that drummers learn and study their rudiments so they can really express themselves, because I feel good music really comes from the heart. So when you have these physical limitations, you can't express who you really are, and the rudiments really have a beautiful way of removing those limitations. Yeah, I find the rudiments extremely useful in any type of situation. I don't care what you're doing, if you're doing a country gig, if you're doing a jazz gig, what have you. I find the rudiments extremely enhancing to a heavy rock situation because it's all based on control. And the more control that you can have, the louder you can hit, the more energy that you can produce from your heart, as opposed to producing it falsely by a poor grip or having a hard time with a certain sticking. Most people have the perspective of the rudiments being boring and monotonous and redundant. I thought that way for years. I did it because that's what I needed to do. But I think because there hasn't been anything out there like this, that's the mentality of everybody. But in actuality, the rudiments are the nucleus of becoming a great musician. What I've noticed in the past is that you've got great websites that, they show you the stickings and they'll have either a computer playing them or a guy playing them, and that's great. Here's the flam paradiddle diddle, and oh, that's great, I understand that. But it's never taken it to the next step. And I found, even as a teacher, that was a big hindrance, because I wasn't able to take my students to that next step. I think the slow motion in the DVD is just really the cat's meow. I think that is beautiful because the way the muscle memory works, you can learn things perfectly and it's great, but if you learn it wrong, you can really wreck things. I learned things wrong for like 15 years, and I had to go back. I had to relearn how to hold the stick. I had to relearn everything. And it's one thing to learn things proper the first time, and you work through it. But when you have to relearn it, it's more than double the work, because you have to re-memorize everything, and you always go back to bad habits, and it's very difficult. I use the Vic Firth AH5A, and they're a great stick. I've been looking actually for a long time for the stick, but I like the length of them, because I like things nice and close. So they're kind of a normal length, maybe a little bit shorter. It's just really nice. When I choke up on them, the weight, it really helps and enhances my wrist. It doesn't take away from it. There's less restrictions that way. The way they bounce, they respond beautifully. And the tips are just, I love them because they're very dynamic with the cymbal. They're not too big, so that if I want to do some quieter stuff, it's easy to control. But they're big enough, so if I really want to lay in, they're right there. It's a beautiful stick. I played some peace drums, the Kahuna Babinga series, and well, first of all, they're just beautiful looking. And the tones and the response were just very round. You can hear on the recording too. I love the bass drum response. When you play on a good kit like that, it's inspiring. So in the solos and stuff like that, I found ideas and material was coming that much more easier because of playing such great gear. I use the Alchemy cymbals. I really love the tones, the overtones, the response coming from the cymbal, and just the timbres. Like, they're beautiful. They're not too trashy, even though I like a bit of trash, but they're such, I find, a wide variety of timbres in one cymbal. I can use it in a rock setting. It's got great cutting, but yet if I approach it a bit different, maybe in a jazz thing or some sort of Latin, it's a diverse cymbal within itself, and I wanted to show a few different styles here, so that's one reason I like to use the Alchemies. I really love Railroad Media because I find that they're not so much displaying just people that are popular, but they're dealing with concepts that are really missing in the education scene, and I feel that they're filling in a lot of different gaps. I'm really excited about being on this project and the talk of other projects that they're going to do in the future, and yeah, I just highly recommend it to my students.